much. So we're very happy and excited that the bill is before Parliament. This bill has been very long in the making. The drafting of it started as far back as 2011. It's gone through several drafts, went to Parliament once in 2016, it was in October, and there was election in December. So it didn't really travel much and elapsed. So we're very excited that this bill has gone through the first reading. It was referred to the Gender, Children and Social Welfare Committee. They did their consultations on it. They did their report. And it's currently, then it went for the second reading where they discussed the policy. And then it passed through that. And now it's at the consideration stage where they're going to do a line-by-line review of the law. As you have indicated, this law will enable Ghana to comply with its own constitutional provisions as well as its international obligations to ensure inclusiveness of both gender when it comes to decision-making spaces and leadership and governance. Currently, existing research shows that if you do a review of the governance space, for instance, in Parliament, out of the 275 member Parliament, you only have 40 women, making it 14.5%, even though the population of Ghana shows that we have more women. If you look at other areas within the executive level, in Ghana has never had a female president. We've never had a female vice president. When it comes to even the ministerial positions, the cabinet ministers, the number of men have always outnumbered women. At the judiciary, things seem to be improving a little bit, but at the Superior Court, you also still have, yes, we've had 3, actually, you're now 3rd woman out of about 20. So the numbers are still fairly low. And increasingly, more and more women are being appointed to the Superior Courts as judges, but still the men outnumber the women. I mean, at the Judicial Service, you see a lot of women at the secretarial level. Like I said, increasingly, a lot are also being appointed, but not so many. You look at many boards, state-owned corporations, when they are being launched, 1 or 2 token women, etc. And in many corporations as well. Now, increasingly, some women are coming up as CEOs, etc. But it's taking quite a while. And all this is based on patriarchal norms, where, headship of men in all areas of life. So what I'm saying is that based on this sort of where we are, or we've been for quite a while, our own constitution, Article 17 of our constitution, says that there should be no discrimination on the basis of gender. So Articles 1, 2 says equality before whatever defines what discrimination is, etc. But then 17.4 makes an exception. He says that where historically it's been found that there's been discrimination against one gender when it comes to economic, social, educational imbalance, he says there is nothing wrong if Parliament passes a law to bring a balance. That law would bring in policies and programs to ensure that we reach a balance. So it is in line with this provision. Again, in Article 35 of our Constitution, gender considerations is one of the things to be taken into consideration in recruitment into the public service. So it's already there, Article 35. Then Article 37 also says that Ghana has gone and signed on to a lot of international conventions, instruments, etc. And it has to make sure that it complies, its laws complies with it. And, there are lots of these international instruments, which I can mention a few. At the UN level, I'll just mention 2. The Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. It calls for equality when it comes to all areas of life, including in governance. Again, the Sustainable Development Goals of 2015, all the 17 goals have elements of gender, but Goal 5 in particular says there should be, by the year 2030, there should be parity. So it says state parties are supposed to work through, on the journey of equity, and by 2030, there should be parity. Again, at the African Union level, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights also talks about the need for equality. But there's a special protocol on women, the protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the rights of women in Africa. It's very clear. I think it's Article 19. It makes it very clear that women are also entitled to be in leadership positions in the same way as men. State parties are supposed to put in measures to ensure equality. So we are saying that all these show that this particular bill is in line. And as you've rightly indicated, it doesn't cover political. There's only even one clause that deals with politics. I think clause 22. It talks about leadership in the public service, leadership in the private sector, leadership in governance institutions, judiciary and everywhere. So there's a clause 22, one clause, which deals with ensuring some kind of equity and eventually equality. Because the law itself has some indicators at the back where all state institutions and private institutions are supposed to try to meet. Okay? So it starts off from, if the law is passed this year, from 2024 to 2025, I think, there should be at least 30%. We should reach that 30% criteria. Then from then to 2028, it goes on to 40. And then, in line with the SDGs, by 2030, we should have reached equality. So it says political parties are also to be encouraged. The language that is even used for political parties, some of us think is very soft. It says that the Electoral Commission should ensure that in their manifestos, they talk about balance in their leadership and then in vying for political positions, etc. In some countries, they are very clear. Recently, Sierra Leone passed their law. Very, very clear. Every party is supposed to come up with at least 30%. Their list should be made up of 30% when it comes to women. Our law is not strong enough. It doesn't even. So it's sort of, because it is political parties based on the provision of freedom of association. They are supposed to be voluntary organizations. So it's sort of an encouragement. Even the elements of what the sanctions are. The sanctions says that if the political party doesn't comply, then benefits that's through the Electoral Commission government gives to political parties, you will not benefit, and you also not benefit from state protocol services. They are very soft. Other countries have imperative quotas that all parties are supposed to meet. So I think that the law as drafted, it would really help us to achieve some elements of gender equality, because we are way behind. By October, election year, not much was happening. So I think it was gazetted and laid, but I was told that it didn't even go through the first reading. Do you understand? It was
that similar thing will happen.
No.
Because you're also entering election.
We see more action. Yes, we see more being done. The bill itself was actually laid in October 2023, 31st October 2023. And at that time, it was laid under a certificate of urgency for a certain reason. But then it was referred to the same Gender and Children Committee. But they indicated that, normally when a bill is laid under a certificate of urgency, they normally don't get input from outside. They are supposed to just look at it themselves and push it through. They said the way the bill is, they needed inputs. So in their initial report, they indicated that they wanted to open it up and then it has to go through the normal process. So they invited stakeholders to bring memoranda. We submitted the Affirmative Action Bill Coalition and a lot of other NGOs submitted memoranda. So in February, when the committee did its hearing, normally they would invite anybody who submitted a memoranda. We were there. And, so we went with them along with the clause by clause, and it was found that there were lots of errors and things in the law that needed to be corrected. Okay. So at the end, ideally, they're supposed to then have done their reports, then present it for the second reading. But they saw that the errors were so many, so they decided to send the bill with the ministry concerned back to the AG's office to provide, to kind of update it. There were outdated dates, and even the timelines for measuring progress, it was way outdated. It wasn't, it needed to be corrected. Many things needed to be corrected. So after the correction, then it was relayed again because they corrected it, the text was a bit different. It was relayed again on the 14th of June. Committee did very quick work. It was referred to the same committee again, did very quick work, got their report ready, and then made it ready for the second reading. At the second reading, normally what happens is that there'll be some policy debates. People who have views and things can express it. But in spite of the comments that we had, the House decided that it was okay, so it should go for the consideration stage where they'll do the line-by-line voting. At that point, if there's any clause they think should be changed, they are free to do that. So for me, we are very positive that the bill is going. This time, there's enough time. We have a couple of months, and that is it. There's enough time. And the clauses are not that many. There are other bills which are 200 and something. This is just 30, I think 34? It used to be 36, and I think it's now 34 clauses. 34 clauses. So I believe that they will be going through, and it will be passed. It has to be passed so that Ghana can lift up its head when our statutory bodies go for these international events, and then they're asking what's Ghana's rating. Even at the members of parliament, they go for this interparliamentary union meetings, and Ghana, as at the last rating, I think 2023 was 147th, very low. And they themselves talk about it. So for me, when this law comes, structures will be put in place to ensure that we increase the numbers of women in parliament. I think women are more than ready. For a long time, women are not getting the same access to education, higher education like men. Now they have. Many women are educated, many women are equipped, and many women are ready for leadership. There are exceptions, Yes, you mentioned a particular exception. But we've also had men in parliament who have also stayed away for long periods. Usually when a woman is in leadership, the way we measure and assess her is usually harsher than we do for a man. There are other men who have been there, been absent for 15 continuous days without permission, etc., etc. So for me, we shouldn't use one maybe negative story to say that women are not ready for leadership. Many women, all the other women who have been given opportunities for ministerial positions, deputy ministerial positions, they've done outstanding work. They've done very well. So for me, one exception should not color all of us. I know a lot of women who are ready, they are prepared, etc. But you see, they fight. Many women fight against the tide. We live in a patriarchal society, so issues of leadership can be very challenging. There are some people who, once they even decide that they're going to go into leadership, if they are married, the husbands can lead them because they don't want society to think that their wife is in a better, higher position than them. It is a big thing they have to overcome. When it even comes to party politics, it is very robust. We have the first past the post system. It requires a lot of money. Women find it difficult to accumulate money because, especially when it comes to, in Ghana, there are lots of single parent homes and it is headed by women. So any little money that they have, it goes towards their children. So it's difficult to amass the wealth that is needed. Okay. Again, sometimes I hear they'll have to look for a godfather or something. It comes with conditions. So that also, and then even the time. Currently, we still, as I said, in the kind of system in which we live in, women still have a lot of responsibilities because in our homes, we have what we call gender division of labor. Now that women go out to the workplace to work, many women still have to wake up early, make sure there's enough food. They prepare food for the family, the children. Some are responsible for taking children to school and back. So it limits women's ability to go and sit in the what we call the marketplace to bargain with people, leadership issues, etc. Whilst men are free. So many things are stacked against women. But we can all work. And then besides, like I said, this bill is not just about politics. It only deals with that in one area. It talks about workplace. There are many things in the workplace that brings difficulty for women. She's gone for an interview, she's qualified, she has all the paper. Somebody will call her, hey, if you don't sleep with me, I won't give you this position. Sexual harassment in the workplace. Entry within. Sometimes she's in there, she wants promotion. Hey, if you don't do me this favor, they call it quid pro quo. Do you understand? So that's why there are a few provisions in the law which seeks to try to, bring a bit of protection. Then in another area is, if I even employ a woman, a young woman, within women, the discrimination too is, we'll call it intersectional. Older woman, who is past having her period, etc., people don't have problems. Of course, it's an age thing. Sometimes even the perception is that the older ones we talk too much. The younger ones, there's a fear. Hey, she'll come and get pregnant, and then she'll stay at home, and it's going to cost me more to get someone to be in her position whilst I'm paying her. So these are things which we have other legislation. The Labour Act prohibits that. Okay, so this law just mentions a few things, just reminding, because there are other legislation addressing it. In the Labour Act, sexual harassment in the workplace is an offence for which a company can be made to pay a fine, etc., etc. Okay, pregnancy-related discrimination is also an offence which has consequences. So the fact that this law sometimes refers to these places, these are the things that inhibit women. So you're a young woman, you have now just gotten married, you're going to stand as an MP, and then they will ask, hey, now I'm representing, and things like that. So there are so many things stacked against women, but they are very strong, very capable, very well equipped and educated women who are there to fill the positions. We are not saying just put any woman anywhere. Women who are qualified and they are there. There are plenty. Remember I mentioned this 1998 affirmative action, which enabled like the public universities to allow women who had slightly lower aggregates to enter certain areas, the STEM areas, etc. They did outstanding well. Most of these women ended up with first class and very high, second upper positions. When they were given the opportunity, whilst they were at home and did, they had so many obligations, so it was difficult for them to move on. When they're in the university setting, they don't have to go looking for anyone and are also learning and given the same opportunity as their male counterparts. They excel. So women in Ghana are very intelligent, they are very capable, and they need to be given that push. Besides, remember I was giving you some justifications for this law. I mentioned the marginalization of women. I mentioned the fact that the constitution allows this once there's one group has been discriminated against. I also mentioned Ghana's international obligations as well. Then another justification we also use is that many countries, these problems we have is not peculiar to Ghana. It's been experienced by many other countries, both in the Western world, but we'd like to use African examples. Within Africa, all the countries that have been able to increase the number of women in leadership, it was through legislation. It was through legislation that it happened. If you look at countries like Rwanda, you look at countries like Senegal, Kenya, and recently Sierra Leone, which is very similar to Ghana, even though it's a smaller country. They passed legislation in similar affirmative action law like this in 2022. And currently in their parliaments, before they passed the law, they also had 14.5%. So as they passed the law, now they're almost 30% in there. So that's the example. And then they also said there's research people have done, some research reports we've seen, which says that it makes economic sense to be inclusive. The thoughts men bring, the thoughts women bring when it comes to leadership, when it comes to taking decisions in boardrooms, etc., it helps to move a nation forward. It helps with sustainable development. Lots of research is out there. You understand? And some would also say, oh, their policy. The policies haven't brought us here. 1998 policy. Beijing conference was in 1995. So Ghana's response was come up with a policy, etc. Some have worked a bit, but it hasn't taken us to where we want to. And then still also talking about legislation. When we gained independence in 1997, of course, those days the Constituent Assembly was mainly men. Then we became a republic in 1960. Our first president realized that, hey, we needed to have women in the spaces where they're also going to take decisions. So they passed a law called the Representation of the People's Act of 1960, which it brought some kind of it was a special seat. It was only women competed with themselves for those seats. It brought one woman out of the 10 regions to go to parliament for the first time. You understand? So legislation was used to bring women there. Then the next election was in 1965, when at that time people had seen, hey, so these women can work. During the election, 18.5% of those who were elected were women. Because people saw women working. Unfortunately, there was a coup the following years, and that scuttled it. And when there's a coup, there's a macho world, and then very few women got the opportunity. So the legislation is important. If it was done in 1960, it can also be done now to ensure that we bring the numbers up. There are few women in parliament, but the numbers is not good enough. We need more women there to be able to make inputs into legislation so that we can all benefit. Apart from being the convener of the Affirmative Action Bill Coalition, in 2011, when there was a decision was taken to come up with this bill, I represented a group, so I was part of they call it a technical committee that was set up in 2011 to do the initial consultations and to help with the drafting. And even within then, they selected 3 of us to help with the drafting of the bill. So I've been there, the journey. In 2018, when the bill then went to, the then minister took it to cabinet, they said they wanted to see a communication plan. They wanted to see, there were two things, communication plan and then implementation plan. We were bussed to somewhere around the Ebri area for 5 days to come up with a communication plan and an implementation plan, including how to do who will be involved in the dissemination, how to reduce the thing into simple English, into the Ghanaian languages, etc. So there are plans out there. A lot needs to be done. There will need to be some consequential amendments to some laws to make some aspects of it work, as well as the communication plan, very thorough. NCCE, information services, Bureau of National Languages will come in just to reduce it into simple English to disseminate. So there's a plan. out there. The Ministry of Gender is in possession of those documents. Yes. Oh, I thought it was that's the second time she's been appointed. We thought that if a party thinks, a party thinks that a woman is qualified enough to stand as vice president, it's a good thing. They were not the first time. It wasn't them alone. I think there were other parties. Is it CPP or PPP?
It was PPP.
PPP.
Yes.
Miss I've forgotten her name. Yes.
She
Yes, she was also Bridget Jobenuku.
Yes.
Was also got. So for me, when a woman is recognized as capable of a certain position, I always applaud. I would always applaud. And I think that it's a good opportunity.
You
Other,
for similar actions to be taken by other parties. So
we will be very happy.
And are we close to making a female our president?
Making a female our president, it's possible. It's possible, but I think that the more people see women in leadership and doing well, the more people will be willing to put women up, and then the more people will also be willing to vote for such person. Other countries have done it. It's really Liberia has done it. Malawi has done it, and they've all done well during that period. So for me, Ghana, I think we've lagged behind a little bit, and I think women should be given the opportunity, and also women should also avail themselves they should avail themselves for such positions. Like I said, I do some gender training. So one of the things we always tell people is that when you're talking about gender, it's not flat. There are older women, there are younger women. There are women in rural areas. There are women with disability. There are women in different parts of the country where certain religions affect them more, as far as the patriarchal norms is stronger in places, it is not. So in the dissemination, these are things we should take, dissemination as well as in the communication, we should take all these things into consideration. But I would differ with you a little bit. Some of the most brilliant women that I know are from the northern part. First of all, in 1960, I think Mrs. Ali, she made, what was her name? Mrs. Susanna Lassan, I think, was one of the initial women who went to parliament. Her name is always there. You get it? At the law school, a lot of female lawyers have been trained, they're equipped. And I believe that if some of the advocacy is targeted at them, I know one of the groups that's a member of the coalition, NORSAC, they've done a lot of work in trying to raise awareness. I went to Tamale just to make a presentation to a group of outstanding women who are out there. So you're absolutely right. We have to target certain places and make sure that additional advocacy is there done to help people. Yeah. So like I said, maybe I didn't say that earlier on. When it comes to some of the things that keep women back, apart from patriarchy, we also have our religions, which says, men's leadership in front, etc. But I think that even in countries like Pakistan, which is it's a very strong Muslim country, a woman has led it. Okay, India, I think, I'm just trying to remember. There are some countries where, even their religion doesn't allow women to be leaders. But it is possible. Some of these, we call it, these glass ceilings are being broken. And basically, once a person is able to deliver, is respectful, I think that they'll be given the chance and the opportunity. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. We need to, and for me, we have to even reach them younger age, try to strengthen them and give them more information. Yeah. Pakistan has had a woman president, prime minister or something before. So for me, you can look at examples of other countries which have been able to overcome these things, those Christian countries, and whatever. And we should also remember, this is also not peculiar to just governance. Even within the church, the Christian church, it took a long time before women are accepted as priests, pastors in the church. It took a lot of advocacy, it took a lot of work. And those who are out there are doing outstanding work. So I think that we should give the opportunity and not use one little example of a negative example to brand all women as incapable or not reliable, etc. And not measure women who go into leadership too harshly. Give them the opportunity. Yes.
Your final words, because we have to expand. First of all, let's focus on parliament. We need what's your message right now? Because they will need to expedite the process of passing this bill. And there are other things. Do you think we should also come under the spirit of urgency? Because everything it seems to be.
That's too late for that.
That's too late.
You see, either a bill is going through the normal process, or if the executive says space for agency, and Parliament already indicated that they couldn't do that. In any case, even for the bills that go through space of agency, you should still go through the process: first reading, second reading, and then the consideration before the third reading, as this has gone. So the space of agency part we have, but we would urge the honourable members of Parliament, from the Speaker, the majority and minority leaders, all the leaders of Parliament, as well as all the members of Parliament, to see this bill as a priority. And so we would urge the Business Committee of Parliament to table this bill daily so that they can go through the consideration and finalize it. Because when the bill comes in place and it's allowed to work, it would lift Ghana up before the community of nations as a very gender-friendly country, which is recognizing the strengths of both men and women in leadership. So we plead with our honourable members of Parliament to treat this bill as one of priority. We've done some lobbying with some of the leadership of Parliament, and they said they'll make it a priority. We urge them. The Speaker too has emphasized. We met the Speaker. He emphasized that. So we'd like him to keep to his words and make it a priority, so that we can get this bill passed and then start working in implementation. It starts working with to help to implement it, so that Ghana will start shining and once again become the beacon leadership in many areas. Gender, we are lagging behind. So we need this law in place and implemented so that we'll assume our seats as leaders. I would encourage women to equip themselves and be ready for leadership positions. We shouldn't say, by nature, if you go and ask my mother now, she'll say, oh, Sheila is a very shy person. But because based on my interest in some of these issues, I've overcome it and now I can speak publicly. So we can all equip ourselves and be poised and ready to take on positions when, we are given the opportunity. And when we also get the opportunity to be given positions, we should really, really show excellence and shine where we are, so that more women will be given more opportunities to ensure the developments of our dear country, Ghana.